This is Emma Scott. Today we're going to go over phenotypic plasticity in response to non-genetic factors in the groups of Hymenoptera and termites and how it applies to caste development. Throughout this presentation, we're going to go through our study group, what organisms we have involved, the thesis, what we want to find out, the castes, what are castes, and how are they formed, what this tells us about evolution, and the conclusions that we can gain from it. So, some of our study groups are found in the Hymenoptera order of insects. Hymenoptera contains all wasps, ants, and bees, and these organisms are all easy to find, rear, and observe, even in a laboratory setting. Our one other group for study is the termite group, Isoptera, an insect order that is much like Hymenoptera in that they share social structure, castes, and they're very abundant. So what is it that I wanted to know? What's the thesis? So, Hymenopterans are good models for phenotypic plasticity in caste development, and by studying caste development in Hymenopteran and Isopteran groups, we can gain insight into the evolution of social societies, and understanding these groups provides both insight into evolution and also application for current human practices. So let's define what a caste is. Castes are members of the colony that have a specific task or tasks, and here we see several species and their respective castes. Some species have many castes, while others have only a few. By having separate castes for specific tasks, the colony, which is the group of organisms, is more efficient, as each organism can complete its task more efficiently than it could if it had to do every other task within the colony. All right, we're going to look at several castes and what they do shortly, but first we need to discuss the meaning of phenotype plasticity. To understand the phenotype, we first look at the genotype. Here it is represented by the clay. The clay represents the genes. Everyone in the colony has the same genes. And yet, as we saw earlier, their castes can look quite different from each other. This is the phenotype. It's plastic. The genotype can be used to make more than one phenotype. Here, it's represented by the different pots and bowls. They each perform a different function despite being made of the same material. So, these organisms, Hymenoptera and Isoptera, they live together in social groups, large amounts of individuals within the same space, including many different tasks and castes. On the left, we see a paper wasp colony. In the middle is a termite mound, and on the right is an ant mound. These are examples of the structures that they can have. The individual members of the colony work together to accomplish the tasks necessary for their survival. This is achieved through the development of castes, each with a specific task, as we mentioned earlier. Let's go into the first type of caste, the reproductives. Reproductives are responsible for providing the young for the colony. They produce all the members of the colony, no matter what caste. Usually there is only one reproductive female in the colony. In our examples here, on the left, this is a termite queen, the very large individual, and she only produces eggs. She won't be taking care of the young. On the right, we see a drone, which is a male honeybee and is only responsible for fertilizing the queen and then dies shortly afterwards. In both cases, the reproductives will not be responsible for any rearing of the young. This brings us to our next caste, the workers. Workers are responsible for rearing the young, so feeding them and doing anything other than that is needed for their survival. They also maintain the colony by building structures and keeping repairs, and they gather resources. And in the case of honeybees, they also work as defense members in the colony. However, in other Hymenopterans and termites, there's an additional caste for protection. This will be discussed in a moment. In ants, scouts are used in order to find resources such as food for the colony, and then they go back and signal other members of the colony who will actually come and collect the resources. These members that they communicate with are the workers. However, the workers need protection while they gather the resources, and so there is another caste known as the soldiers. Here we see ant soldiers. The large one on the left and the little one on the right are from the same species and the same caste, but vary in size due to factors which we will talk about in a moment that determine how large they will be once they reach maturity. And soldiers are responsible for protecting the colony from any danger, whether it's within the colony or while foraging for the resources that the scout found. Let's go through the methods that determine what castes evolve. There's several methods. We'll begin with dominance. Dominance is a behavior usually done by the reproductive which influences caste development within the colony. This can be done in two ways: through aggression, which is behavioral or chemical, but has to do with the status of the reproductive. So because they're more dominant or a higher station, that allows them to assert control over the other members of the colony. And this can be done through behavior or chemicals. The second form of dominance is through actually preventing reproductive structures from evolving or becoming mature. And this is interference with the endocrine system, which is responsible for reproduction in all insects. Another form of caste development is spatial placement. So depending on where the young are placed, they will develop into different organisms. A good example of this are the honeybees, which have larger cells for queens, resulting in the room necessary to grow to that large of a size. And they also have different locations for their queens versus their workers. Now, as we discussed with the soldier ants, there's a difference in size between the soldiers, and this is due to the quantity of food sources. By being fed more while developing, some soldiers will be larger while others will be smaller. In addition, the quality of the food resources can determine the caste type. Honeybees feed larvae destined to be queens higher quality food known as royal jelly. This gives them the resources they need to develop those queen-like characteristics. Timing of nutritional feeding is also important, as it can be the limiting factor determining when a caste can be decided and when it is too late and it's already too far along to change the caste. There are also pheromonal influences to caste development. This could be through inhibiting development of sexual characteristics, such as we saw in dominance, or through behavioral control of the workers. Seasonal changes are the last caste influencer that we are going to discuss here. So by the season determines what caste can develop and how many, because during different seasons, different resources are available. In spring, there are less food resources, and so the colony is limited in its growth. But as the season progresses and more food sources become available, the colony can expand and produce more workers to care for larger amounts of young. In the winter, there's usually a decrease in members in the colony, and some castes are actually kicked out of the colony because they do not benefit the colony enough to keep them. So, how did castes evolve? It has been suggested that castes began as a difference in size, such as seen here in the honeybees. The queen, marked in green, is a lot larger than the workers, which are all around her. And otherwise, they look pretty similar, but the difference in size gives one an advantage and may have led to further specialization. So Hymenopterans all evolved from a common ancestor. And this ancestor could fly and probably looked like a wasp. But ants, nowadays, live underground where wings would be cumbersome and increase the probability of predation, as they might get stuck or something could grab their wings. So ants lost their wings as a permanent trait, but they retained the ability to form wings when it's advantageous for when they disperse and found new colonies. Termites have an interesting evolution of wings. They evolved a new function for the wing structures. Instead of forming wings, they're made into endocrine glands, which produce pheromones. And this is the main form of communication in termites, as they are almost entirely blind. Like the ants, though, during reproductive dispersal, they can and do form wings. Learn from all of this. We learn that we can study the evolution of social groups, ranging from the simple differences in size between castes to the complex castes seen in many ants. Pest control methods can also be developed by knowing how the biological processes and castes are evolved within Hymenopteran and Isopteran groups. Ecological applications are also beneficial, as termites handle a lot of buildup in environments by eating the wood and trees that would otherwise cause a lot of forest fires, while at the same time, termites can be very damaging when they are found in homes and can accrue millions of dollars of damage every year. Hymenopterans can also be used to increase the yield of crops. This can be done through bringing in pollinators, such as honeybees, and by knowing their biology, you can increase the flower density, which allows for greater pollination, or through preventing parasites by bringing in parasitic wasps, which will control the parasites of the agriculture. In conclusion, we learn and are validated in our thesis that Hymenopterans are good models of social structure, caste development, and evolution, and that understanding Hymenopteran and Isopteran biology can be used to benefit human processes. Further research will yield new evolutionary insights and greater understanding into Hymenopteran biology. This can be through agriculture, understanding of evolutionary processes, and ecological applications. Thank you.